you just don't know where to start with your diet plan, then this video is designed to just give you some tips on how you can get started without really thinking about it and start losing weight immediately whilst you figure out what to do next. Obviously, my videos are designed to help you figure out your long-term plan, but sometimes just getting started is the hardest part. I'm just going to add in here quickly, if you're finding these videos helpful, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment, simply because it just helps me to know that I'm giving you useful information, and it just gives me some feedback on what other information you want. So if you've got any questions as we're going through the video, pause the video, write your question in the comments, and then restart it, because I'll then be able to use those comments to do helpful videos going forwards. Enjoy the video. It's important to stress that these tips aren't going to be for everyone. If you're somebody who's living with diabetes, or if you're somebody who needs to have regular meal times because of medication that they take, then it's really important that you speak to your healthcare provider before you make any changes to your regular eating regime. For everybody else, one of the best ways to just get kick-started is by fasting. Now, this might sound really extreme, but ultimately, when you're dealing with the hunger signals, so the signals that our body is telling us that we need to eat, then having some control over that can help you in your long-term plan to sustain the weight loss that you will achieve. What do I mean by that? Well, when we lose weight, as I've said previously, our body will absolutely try to get you to feel hungry to regain the lost weight, because that's a survival mechanism that is tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years old. Part of that signalling is hunger. And when we can develop strategies to allow those hunger pangs to pass, we can then understand that that's just an evolutionary part of our being, and that we are not going to die through starvation, through not being able to access food, because food is now in absolute abundance. Recognizing that when those hunger signals come, they will pass. They will pass. And if you don't eat, then, and you drink lots of water instead, then you can start to feel better in yourself, because you haven't been responding to those cues all the time. Now, there's a caveat here. If you're somebody who's ever suffered with any eating disorder, so anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, it's really, really important that you get support in that eating disorder before you embark on any sort of fasting or intermittent fasting. I do recommend, for people who are deciding that they need to lose weight for health reasons, I do recommend, if you have no idea, let's just clarify this. Some people know exactly what they're going to do. Some people are like, Cambridge diet plan worked for me, lighter life worked for me, keto worked for me, intermittent fasting worked for me, tracking my calories worked for me. Whatever it is that worked for you in the past, if you're feeling motivated to do that again, then amazing. Go ahead and do that. You don't need this video. This video is simply for the people who are in a position where they just don't know where to start, because maybe the thought of going back to having those shakes, or the thought of having to track all the time, just is overwhelming. They don't want to do it, and they don't know what else to do. This video is designed for you. Now, starting off with a one-day fast, if you are overweight or obese and you're not diabetic, or you don't have medication that you need to take, which is food dependent, can really, really help to kickstart things and give you some breathing space to decide what you're going to do. And following on from that first one-day fast is literally not eating for a day. It's so important that you drink plenty of water. So you're actually establishing a new habit in drinking water, because for all people who come into my clinic, drinking 2.5 to 3 litres of water a day is absolutely paramount for good health and to be able to sustain a low calorie diet and feel well. You're going to be drinking lots of water because when you're feeling hungry, you're going to be sipping on your water and then it will pass. You can drink tea and coffee. I would advise not to have any sugar in it and switch to sweeteners, but you can drink tea and coffee. The negligible amount of milk, if you do take it, isn't going to be having a significant impact on your fast. So you don't need to be extreme with it and not have anything other than water. But you can go ahead and have your normal drinks as usual. And actually, I would encourage it, because if you start depriving yourself of caffeine, if that's something that you would normally be having, can then make you feel quite unwell, and that's not what we're aiming for. You do your 24-hour fast, and then the next day, you're probably going to be feeling all right. You'd be surprised how quickly the habit and the physiological instinct of craving your breakfast, because you're used to having breakfast every morning, passes. For example, if you're somebody who every day wakes up and has a bowl of Cheerios, as soon as you wake up, you're like, oh, I'm ready for my Cheerios. Once you've been not having your Cheerios for about 3 days, that physiological urge and craving to have your Cheerios will pass, and whatever it is for you. I do recommend that if you have no idea where to start on your diet plan, then intermittent fasting is a really, really good place to start. There's a lot of evidence now for the additional health benefits aside from weight loss to intermittent fasting. I'll do a different video to explain all that, but we know that intermittent fasting is just really good for our bodies. We're giving our digestive system a rest, we're giving our liver a rest, just allowing your body to have a break from processing and digesting food is very, very good for our overall physical health and mental health. Once you've done your 24-hour fast, the next day too, then you want to give yourself a window of opportunity where you eat. That could be a 12-hour window. So you could say, I'm going to eat from 7 till 7 and then I stop. Or you could say, do you know what? I could do an even smaller window. I'm going to eat from 9 till 7 and then I'm going to stop. Or you can do an even smaller window. If you're somebody who's like, well, I normally skip breakfast anyway, I'd have my morning coffee and then I can keep going till lunch, then you might say, I'm going to start eating at 12 and stop at 7, and that's me done. The reason I say stopping at 7 is because if you can, then having your last meal 3 hours before bedtime. I'm going in with a general statement that your bedtime is going to be at 10 o'clock. Obviously, if you normally go to bed at 11 or midnight or 1 in the morning, then adjust it to your regime. But let's say 10 o'clock is your bedtime. If you can stop eating about 3 hours before bed, so have your last meal, give yourself half an hour, clean your teeth, take your makeup off, get yourself sort of ready for bed, then you're allowing your digestive system, your liver to have a break. It allows you to sleep better. Trust me on this. When you stop eating 3 hours before bed, you will sleep better. And this includes alcohol. If you avoid alcohol 3 hours before bed, it allows your liver to have a complete break. We often think that alcohol helps us to sleep. What it actually does is puts you into sedation for a few hours, and then you usually wake up and have a disturbed sleep because you've been sedated for a little while, so you've gone into this really, really deep sleep, which isn't actually sleep at all, it's just sedation through alcohol. And then you wake up as your liver's kicked in and it's like, whoa, everything's working overtime to process the alcohol, and you end up having a really sort of interrupted sleep. When you avoid food and alcohol 3 hours before bedtime, you have a much, much better sleep quality, which actually then allows your hormonal balance to improve. There's lots of hormones that we produce naturally at night, which can be disrupted by food and alcohol, which can then make us feel much better into the next day. If you're avoiding food and alcohol 3 hours before bed, our cortisol levels tend to be lower, we're better at producing growth hormone overnight, and our appetite control hormones are much better the next day. If you've had a good night's sleep, then your ghrelin levels, your hunger hormone, tends to be lower, which then allows us to have a better day from a food perspective. A lot of information to take on in one video. I will go into the sleep side of things a little bit more in a separate video, but it's just some of the reasons why choosing an intermittent fasting, or some people call it restricted feeding window, is a great way to kickstart things if you're just unsure about what to do to get going. I hope you found that video helpful. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comments section. If you found it useful, please give it a like. If you want to see more of my videos, then please subscribe. It really, really helps to know that I'm doing a good job. See you soon.